Hey folks, it's time for part 3 of Make Your Seder Awesome with Rabbi Mark Asher Goodman of Congregation Beth Shalom in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So with no further ado, just a few additional tips that will help make your Passover Seder great. And I want to give a shout out when I'm giving this one to the great Noam Tzion, who is a wonderful Jewish educator based in Israel, who gave me this tip. Seder secret number 1. Fun fact, there are no Seder secret number 2 or 3 because I was putting these together and I didn't really think of additional Seder secrets. They're all Seder secrets. But Seder secret number 1, get thee to karpas so you can nosh. So for those of you who are not necessarily familiar with the order of the Passover Seder, it has 12 steps: kadesh, urchatz, karpas, yachatz. So part 3 is when you get to karpas, which means you eat a little bit of, maybe it's parsley, maybe it's celery. Some people even eat carrots, some kind of greens, right? Anything that the blessing that is made borei pri ha'adamah is something that you are allowed to eat at karpas. Now, the biggest problem we have, which I joked about in part 1, is that Uncle Murray is at the table and he's constantly complaining, when do we eat, right? And if the bulk of the text of the Seder is in the Magid, which is, I think, the 5th part of the Passover Seder. No, let's see. Kadesh, Rochatz, Karpas, Yachatz, Magid. Yeah, I'm right. That part takes, depending on your family, if you're doing it really fast, 15 minutes. If you're doing it a very traditional way, I've seen Magid take 3 to 5 hours, right? And if you're stuck at that part and you're not getting to eat, then people are going batty, right? They're absolutely frustrated beyond belief because they thought that they were going to be getting to the food. The way to solve this is to do a little bit of noshing, a little bit of eating at karpas. Once you hit karpas and you say borei pri ha'adamah, you are permitted, halachically, according to Jewish law, to eat any kind of greens or edible things that grow from the ground, otherwise known as crudité, right? So if you put out a table full of turnips, well, maybe not turnips, radishes and carrots, little sliced cucumbers, celery, and you put dips with that, right? Like maybe a little bit of olive tapenade, maybe a guacamole. If you are keeping with the Sephardic custom and you eat legumes, you could put out hummus here, right? And you put that all out on the table and you let people do a little bit of noshing, a little bit of eating as they go, then they're not, starving to get to the Passover Seder and the meal part. And they're not going to they're going to relax and they're not going to rush through the Magid. And therefore you can have a little bit more fun and do a little bit more activity based education here. And you don't feel really stressed that you need to race to the food part, right? Additionally, the next little thing that we'll talk about here is decisions. What haggadah style are you using? There are a lot of ways of reading through the haggadah, and I'm just going to lay out 4 for you. And, it's not probably accidental that the Passover Seder is built off of 4. So I have 4 ideas for how to use your haggadah style. And I've done all of these and they all have their pros and cons, and there's no one right way. By the way, the picture that you see before you is a small subset of the collection of haggadahs I have. I have about 21 different ones, and I don't even think that's that many. I know people who have certainly way more than me. So the first way to go, which is pretty simple, is to buy a really good haggadah that you really like, that does all the things, and then maybe stick to the text overwhelmingly and add one little insert, right? A lot of charitable Jewish organizations will mail you a Seder insert every year. Other times, maybe you have a little reading from a couple years ago that you really like. I found a Seder insert that I pulled out from a Haggadah that I found from 25 years ago just the other day that I thought was really funny, that, I'd kept that in there for all those years. So maybe that's the way you go. The advantage of this is everyone's on the same page, literally. You can say, we're on page 28, and everyone turns to page 28, and everyone really knows what's going on. A second way to do a Passover Seder, I would say this is for the more advanced group of people who've done Passover Seders for years and feel really comfortable and like having a discussion, and maybe you're a little bit more educated or intellectual, is have everyone bring their own haggadah. And that means that you can go, instead of page by page, part by part. You can say, okay, we're on the 4 children, right? Does anybody have a piece from their haggadah on the 4 children that they really like? And then someone can read a piece out of their haggadah that they really prefer. So that's one really nice way to do it. It does have the challenge, though, that if people aren't familiar with the different pieces of the haggadah, you can't say everyone turn to page 33, because everyone will be confused if they go to page 33. The third possibility, and this is a bit advanced and it takes a lot of work for the convener, the coordinator, is to build your own haggadah. That means you take, for instance, for me, the 21 haggadahs that you have, and you photocopy a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and so on and so forth. One of the really great ones that I recommend is the Velveteen Rabbi has a haggadah that she made online. You can Google Velveteen Rabbi Haggadah and it'll pop up. And hers is digital, it's PDF style. And she very much at the beginning encourages you to add or subtract your own elements, which means you could bring in your own PDFs and add it and put it out there. If you were very avant-garde and modern, you might even spare a few trees by, instead of printing out that entire haggadah for all of your 12 to 37 Passover guests, to just have them bring their own iPhones or do it digitally. Or maybe this is the year that you mount the 68-inch TV facing the Passover table, and you just thumb through it by clicking next on the next page, and you wire it to your laptop. Make this a space for trying new things. Obviously, for those of us who will be doing Passover on the evening of Passover and do not use electrical devices on Shabbat and Yom Tov, that might not be an option. But I'm just throwing stuff out there. Some people, because of small children, have to do their Passover haggadah Seder before the evening even begins. The final option here is what I'm going to be doing this year, which is you build a Seder supplement packet, right? You have a book that's your core book, but every once in a while you say to everyone, hey, turn to the first page of your Seder supplement packet. We're going to do this little reading right here. That kind of is a nice middle ground of both worlds. You don't have to, spend hours photocopying, collating, and stapling a dozen different 73-page haggadahs that you made this year that are going to be obsolete in 2 years. And you don't also get stuck with the same haggadah text every single year. So that's part 3. Join me in a little bit for part 4 of Make Your Seder Awesome.